Krios and Vault Minor have agreed to a ceremony of reconciliation. Riker makes it a policy to never open another man's gift. And Beverly offers a penny even though she doesn't have one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
Brooklyn Dodgers #1 fan. My name is Ryan T. Huskin. Today, we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 5, Episode 21, The Perfect Mate. Story by Renee Echeverria and Ruben Leder. Teleplay by Ruben Leder and Michael Piller. Maybe it's Leader. Directed by our pal Cliff Bowl. This was April 25th, 1992. Where were you? We've got a very special guest today, everybody. Can you believe it? Star Trek documentarian. You know all of his Star Trek documentaries, so many of them. His name is Dave Zappone. How are you today, Dave?
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Sirach. And Sirach, you of all people know the talent of Renee Echeverria. I mean, my God, what a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic writer. He went on to do a lot of stuff for Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And, we're always going to have tremendous praise for the work that he has done. And this episode is, it's right there with me. I thought it was captivating and interesting. I didn't find myself kind of like saying, okay, when is this going to end type of deal. I thought the performance was great and the writing was great in this episode. What about you?
Same here, 100%. I have a soft spot for Renee. He was in our writer's room, of course, on DS9, the doc.
Everybody at home, Dave Zappone, of course, is the executive producer of What We Left Behind, the Deep Space Nine documentary, The Captains, the upcoming, current, I should say, Voyager
documentary. Life, Still Kicking, For What We Love of Spock.
For the Love of Spock, yeah. So many things. Yeah. So anyway, you were saying about Renee and the writer's room.
Ira, because I'm such good friends with Ira loves Renee. And Renee really shines in this. And Sirach, correct me if I'm wrong, or Ryan, but I think his first episode was The Offspring.
I know he did do that one. I don't know if it's his first. I'll check.
I believe it was his first, and I want to say it was a spec. And it just set the template because you had a lot of testosterone in that DS9 room, and TNG to an extent.
Confirmed. And The Offspring was first.
Renee was the sensitivity, and without being maudlin. And that's what I thought this episode pulled off more than anything. But I got to tell you before I forget, my favorite joke and how it got past the censors, I don't know, in 92, she's hits on Riker in her quarters. Mm-hmm. And Riker doesn't say a word, just holodeck 4. Because I think we all knew what he needed.
Yes, I caught that too, David.
Did you catch that?
I caught it and I was thinking,
wait, what was it that he did?
Oh, when he breaks, when he breaks from
yes, and he said when he says I'll be in holodeck 4. I agree. Yes. I wrote that in my notes. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe. And actually, I wrote in my notes what he's going to do in holodeck 4, but I'm not going to repeat it here.
Yeah, of course.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, we know. He had to blow off some steam, man. He got way worked up on that. He's like Riker to bridge. Forget whatever's going on right now.
Don't bother me.
I need 30 minutes.
That is quite possibly the only time in Star Trek history that a joke of that nature has been made.
Certainly in the original, the classic Star Treks, yeah.
I think that's the only one. I mean, maybe Lower Decks. I don't know.
Maybe Lower Decks, but certainly, how that made it past, all the executives, all the double checking that goes on.
Well, I think it's a testament to Jonathan Frakes because he was so subtle about it. It wasn't like, I'll be in holodeck 4. He was nice and subtle and calm. So
it leaves a little to the imagination.
Correct.
Right. So it's not right on the nose. It's just off that you can just say, oh, I know what's going on
But
here.
Jonathan
I almost
Frakes
fell
is
out of
such a
bed.
phenomenal. Jonathan Frakes is such a phenomenal actor that he told us everything we needed to know
Yeah.
in that scene with his eyes.
His eyes, exactly. I thought the same thing. His look, and Patrick Stewart too. They could do so much just with their face, their expression, without saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, so obviously, Dave, about Riker's sexual prowess and how
I do.
how many,
Not personally.
not personally, but we've seen the episodes. He definitely not shied about pulling the trigger. And I thought in this moment, I was like, this is a bad thing, right? Like I was like, oh God, this is bad for Riker. Please keep him away. Because you could see it right away from literally from the first close up that he got where his eyes kind of wide.
Yeah. And the other thing was Data was a riot. What does he say? Things were getting a bit ebullient.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know that word, but I wrote it down just so that I could look it up later.
Oh, no, I knew the word. But who did it take is interesting because if you think about it, this is now being nerdy. Data could outfight Worf,
yes,
I believe, but it took Worf to disperse those aliens.
Yeah. Well, Data's not as intimidating as Worf.
No.
He may be stronger and he might, but he's so, polite, matter of fact, and just robotic that he's not going to be able to project that kind of intimidation that Worf does.
Yeah, Worf definitely. So does Michael Dorn. I mean, he's such a nice guy, but boy, is he's got an intimidating presence. Like Avery, there are just certain people that just intimidate you, and without trying. And Michael's one of them.
Michael's one of them. I thought something was interesting, and I don't know if you caught this same thing, but with the makeup job on this Kamala character, looked very much like the Trill spots that we see on Dax.
They did. I noticed that. I said, "Is she a Trill?"
That was the first Trill, even though we saw different makeup on a Trill in an earlier season of Next Generation. It's funny that they basically just turned the Trill into this.
Yes. And
the only thing give you guys a scoop. We're interviewing LeVar Burton with Michael Westmore on Wednesday, and I will ask Michael if there was any connection there with the Trill.
It has to be. The only difference that I saw was that the spots went towards the back. Mm-hmm. They came down the side and went towards her back, as opposed to Dax is going down her side all the way. So but actually, still
all the way down. I think we found out in one episode.
But they look identical otherwise in nature and color.
Pattern. Yes, and where they start from, like they emanate from here, coming down. So initially, I thought this is like a Trill type character. I was slightly confused, but then of course, what I was highlighting in this particular observation was the attraction that eventually becomes Dax and Worf was kind of essentially alluded to in that small scene there of with the growling and Data in that bar at 10 Forward. Oh, yeah. It was kind of like that's the kind of person that Worf is attracted to.
He likes spots, man.
He likes the spots. He and eventually, I mean, also brunette. There's several things that are, she's tall, brunette.
She was very tall, and
so I think we found Worf's type. I think Worf's type is this character, which eventually becomes Dax. I thought that
would have worked. But I'll ask you guys a fanboy question. What did you think of in season 7, Worf and Troy getting together, and then by Nemesis, Riker and Troy are getting married?
Dave, Sirach hasn't seen that yet.
I haven't seen any of that.
So he'll have to tell you next year. We're going through this
DS9
episode by episode. So we're at the end
we're
of season
watching
5.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're getting it
Well,
done.
look, anytime you guys want to, I'm like Star Trek nerd to the nth degree. So anytime you need help, I'm
That's
here.
another TNG episode we just did, the nth degree.
Oh, the nth
I
degree.
needed actually help with a little reminder on the Offspring. What so remind me of what
Oh,
that was
God,
when
the
Data
Offspring.
had a child. Remember? He created that child and she died in
Lol.
that same episode.
Oh
She couldn't
yeah.
handle her newfound emotions. And again, I'll give you a spoiler. I like you. You guys are two of my favorite people in Star Trek, by the way. Michael Westmore is most proud. And Brian, you can discuss Michael Westmore, who he is most proud of that makeup. I don't know if you remember, there was a non-gender robot version.
Right. We had that actor on our show.
Leonard Crowfoot.
Yeah, Leonard Crowfoot. We had him on our show. He was amazing. And so Michael Westmore was most proud of that. Is that right? We've had Michael on our show a few times.
Absolutely most proud of that.
Wow, that's cool.
Okay, so that's interesting because we just reviewed another episode, Cost of Living.
Yeah.
Oh, another good one with the bubble.
With the bubble guy, yes. And in that episode, there was a dancer that was I guess partially or almost completely nude, but had a body paint, full head to toe body paint. Something like that is something I would think that Westmore or even the alien in that had a nose that wrapped around the back of his head. There were some interesting aliens in that. And I think they won a couple Emmys for that makeup job.
Michael Westmore has 1 Academy Award, and don't quote me, I believe 9 Emmys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well deserved. Yeah. And we just got news, and God, I wish I could. I promise you guys, when Westmore comes out, I'll come on.
Well, Dave, why don't you tell everybody what you're talking about? What's Westmore?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael Westmore is an Academy Award-winning makeup artist whose 5 uncles before him. So Michael's 87 and doing great, by the way. Every single studio from the 30s on was run by the makeup department, run by a Westmore. So we're talking Gone with the Wind. We're talking the 10 Commandments. I mean, Jerry Lewis film, you name it. It was a Westmore. And so Michael started out on the Munsters, believe it or not, with Butch Patrick. And he worked on Star Trek, Sirach, you remember, 17 years, I think?
Yes.
Not that you were there for 17 years, but all the series, all the movies during the TNG era. And he is just a phenomenal man. And I was interviewing him.
For what project?
Voyager. To what you're wearing, to the journey.
The Voyager documentary.
I still have my Nana love.
I'm trying to lean into the Westmore documentary.
Yeah, well, there's several documentaries.
Spun out. I love them all, guys. They're all still selling. They're all successful. I'm very happy. What shocks me is studios don't seem to want to do them, and it seems to be left to me and Ira to do these things, and they're nothing but successful. Right. But Michael Westmore, we're doing a full documentary called Makeup Man. And Ryan, when does this episode drop?
This is going to be, well, it drops twice. The first segment, this one drops in towards the end of May, mid to end of May.
Oh God, I'm going to get you a trailer.
Then the full thing is going to be out in a month later.
Can you show a trailer?
Of course.
All right, I'll send you a Westmore trailer. But we have had, and Sirach, you'll get a kick out of this. From your cast, we had Jeff Combs, we had Armin Shimmerman, we had Terry Farrell. And again, unfortunately, you didn't make the cut because you really wore no makeup. They
didn't need to touch that beautiful face.
Our human characters didn't fare so well. But we have every single TNG actor except for Marina because she's in London. But it's my backdoor TNG documentary. But as I started to say before, we just got a yes from 2 non-Star Trek huge A-listers. So it's more than Star Trek.
Can you tell us who they are yet?
No.
Ooh.
Yeah, yes. No, we can't spoil it.
Rock, you know, you can't.
You don't want
until it's on celluloid or tape.
Yeah.
We really have to be careful. But let me just say they are. If you
names.
three. If you researched his career, you probably have a pretty good guess.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Westmore. It has worked. If you just look at some of the pictures that he has done in films, and he's worked on some amazing projects. So I'm sure there's a multitude of actors that not only familiar with him, but are more than willing to celebrate him and his work, because it helped them in their career as well.
Correct. And I met Shatner's people yesterday. We were donating a whole bunch of his crew jackets to the Hollywood Charity Horse Show, which is at the end of May. I highly recommend people go. And he donated, because they love my daughter, she's 5, an original merry-go-round horse.
Oh.
Just to give her, to be, just because they're great.
Good people.
So I can't say enough about Michael. And To the Journey, I'm working on sales on that now. I'm hoping for a Fathom release, which means it'll be in theaters all over the world. Reviews have been terrific. I got the entire cast with the exception of Jennifer Lean, who retired 20 years ago, unfortunately. Everything keeps moving.
That's pretty awesome. Everybody go check out the Voyager documentary. Of course, something that I had the pleasure of working with Dave on this. What a delight that
Ryan,
was.
Ryan, kudos.
Yes.
Hang on, Ryan, kudos.
Thank you.
Ryan Husk is responsible for the most successful crowdfunding documentary campaign in history.
Which was pretty awesome.
My friend Sirach is a professor.
That's right. This guy's doling out compliments. Thanks, Dave.
Let's not just speak on that.
I know you do a lot more
right.
of it, Sirach. I can only imagine our mutual friend Avery Brooks is more than proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's always been. But I do want to just talk about that achievement that Ryan was able to do with the Voyager documentary, and I'm glad that it's become something that has gotten to its final stages now, and people are
pretty awesome.
Eagerly anticipating. So congratulations on that. What is the normal time frame that it takes you to go from start to finish on a project like a documentary?
Well, Shatner was a taskmaster, so that was a year, essentially, nonstop. Shatner brooked no delays. But to give you an example, Leonard died, Nimoy, during the filming of Spock, and unfortunately we had a delay. But we got it done in a little over a year. Ira and I joke, because he had Outlander, I had Spock. We took 6 years for that.
Wow.
This one's 5. But we also had a 2-year LA shutdown. We had
the writers' strikes.
Two strikes. So it was very, very difficult. But it's done.
That's awesome. So, and many more to come. I'm very much looking forward to the Westmore documentary. But Dave, since we only have you for a few more minutes, let's talk a bit more about this episode, because there's something that I've been curious about since before we even hit record, but I didn't want to ask until we actually did. My question to you is, you're like a lifelong Star Trek fan. You've seen these episodes a million times. I mention one word about an episode, you name the episode. So my question to you is, when you first saw this episode, you had a certain impression of it, and subsequent times after that. Then you watched it again just now for this review. What has changed as far as your perception of this episode, your opinion of this episode? Have you noticed anything new or appreciated anything new from it?
Well, one thing, it's kind of general. I had a talk with Jonathan Frakes, the two of us personally, and he couldn't believe that my 5-year-old daughter watched every single episode of TNG. And what he said was, what about the pacing? Like, how do kids today? But what I told him is that what people forget, more so, I believe, than the newer series. I know that might get me in trouble, but certainly not DS9. DS9 was a family. They're a family. She responds to the family aspect. Even in this episode, there's some adult overtones, but the reason why she loves these shows is their family. And there's no swear. I just got to ask this. I did another podcast yesterday, and people are like, why on Patreon are you not dropping the F-bomb? I said, you know what? I'm a dad. I grew up watching Star Trek with my father. And I want to be able to watch something with my daughter. And we turned on the new Picard, and I love Patrick Stewart. He's a personal friend. So is Frakes. And the violence, the swearing, I can't watch it with my daughter. And to me, I don't like that. So one thing about The Perfect Mate is you can watch it with a child. You can explain the issues, and they're delicately dealt with. But that would be my main observation. Mm-hmm. And I think that held true all the way through Deep Space Nine, as a matter of fact, and Voyager. And Enterprise.
Thank you. I was waiting for Enterprise. I was like, come on.
Let's look. I will be taken in an alley and beaten up. The decon chamber, which, by the way, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot. We kind of want you to be on the show. I know Lolita's already spoken about it, but the four of you, I think, would make a great episode.
Be a ton of fun. Unfortunately, Sirach doesn't want to. I would love to.
We'll find
I'm just kidding. Of course. No, we love those guys. We love Dominic. We love
Dom and Connor.
So yes, of course it's a yes.
Anytime we're ready to make that happen.
Yeah, I want you guys on it.
I want to talk to you, Dave, about the observation you made about Mr. Rene Echevarria. And that is about the emotional sensitivity that he has and that he brought to Deep Space Nine and now into this episode and also into the episode Offspring. And I think that's a very great observation. But I'd like to ask you, because of your personal relationship with him, what do you think it is about him that has this level of sensitivity to emotions, to these kinds of stories that don't deal necessarily with the fighting and rough and tough,
the sci-fi, the fighting,
but more towards the emotional state of a human being and what their goals are in life, if they're happy in that position. Mm-hmm. It seems like Renee has now, at least in these first two episodes, has really honed in on that. What do you think it is about him that does that emphasizes that?
Well, Sirach, I think we as men, 3 men on this podcast, get a really bad rap. And I think we all have that innate sensitivity. Believe it or not, my favorite episode have you guys done the original series yet?
We're actually doing it with Walter right now.
Yeah.
So it depends on which one you're talking about.
House. We just interviewed Walter at his home.
He told me.
What a I got stories I could tell you off the air.
That's well done.
Yeah. No, I think my favorite episode of the original series is the Paradise Syndrome. What a beautiful episode where Kirk falls in love and loses a child. I mean, how does that not get you?
See, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that one yet. But it almost sounds a little bit like
a spoiler. The empath, you can cut this out. The empath, the whole episode is the three of them, the big three, sacrificing one of themselves, trying to sacrifice themselves for the other. Have you gotten a Half a Life yet on TNG with David Ogden Stiers?
I believe so. Let me check.
So.
All these names are like
fourth season.
Fourth season,
And then
yes.
before we go, I have one question
we
for the
did.
three of you.
Yeah. We did that one.
I mean, the
Thanksgiving.
sensitivity, Sirach, I just think we all have it in us. And it's a question of whether we're willing to show it.
Mhm.
And Renee was. I was from the Bronx, as we know.
Yeah.
Robert Hewitt Wolf is from Waterbury, Connecticut, my hometown, which is
Yeah,
pretty
you're
rough.
not getting any lovey-dovey stuff from Ira, I can tell you that.
No. Ira and I had screaming matches, but they were always creative. And we always made up after. But boy, did we have our share.
Well, he's passionate about his
Oh, God,
thoughts,
yeah.
his
That's
point
why
of
you
view.
respect the man.
Yeah, that's why you respect him, because he's going to defend his point of view. He's going to argue his case, but he's also willing to be convinced if your argument is better than his.
You bet. You bet.
But
So I think
you got
that's
to have
what
the
it is.
courage to put it up, though.
I think we're just, as men, maybe we get the reputation, we're afraid, but I think we all have the same emotions in us.
Yeah, I
really
thought
like
this
Data.
episode was great. Yeah, this episode was great for Picard.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
he was phenomenal. Yeah.
It gave him a chance to be human to me, if for lack of a better word, because sometimes he is almost more robotic than Data sometimes, just in how he's like, nope, I'm not going to be emotional. I have to, nope. But here he was like, you could see he was fighting and resisting and, and
Resisting
really
very
showing
much.
very
And I'll
much
just tell
resisting.
you guys again,
Yeah.
I'm sorry because we got to go, but one interesting anecdote, we interviewed Patrick at his home in England for the captains at his
Great
country
interview.
home.
Great segment.
Thank you. And I had mentioned in conversation just that I'd seen him on Broadway doing this one-man show for A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. And Bill and I were leaving. Bill was in his usual grumpy mood. And Patrick ran out of his home to let me hold the first edition of A Christmas Carol.
Oh,
Just because I mentioned that book. So that is the kind of man Patrick Stewart is.
hey, can I tell you real quick?
Yeah.
So we had Jonathan Frakes on our show a few weeks back for our 500th episode, Conundrum. We had him for Conundrum. Great, awesome episode.
Great episode.
The reason I'm telling you this
episode.
is because I mentioned to him one of the parts of that interview with the captains, because he told us about how, Patrick Stewart was like, we're not supposed to have fun and whatever like that. But you guys actually covered that in the captains. And Patrick Stewart tells the story, and William Shatner stops him and he says, they changed you. And he's like, yeah, they did. And I remember when I watched that back in the day, the first time, I was like, that kind of blew me away. I was like, wow, he actually, Patrick Stewart's been interviewed thousands of times, but you could tell something clicked in his mind where he was
let
like,
me give you again a 30-second story on that. So believe it or not, Jonathan Frakes was my first professional interview for Star Trek in 2010. Okay. And it went great, went well. How do you not get along with Jonathan Frakes? But he made it a point. We're walking in the hallway. Sirach, you remember those hallways behind the private hallways for the talent. And he said, hey, man, great interview. And that stuck with me 15 years later, because who else would give that kind of affirmation? A director, which is what Jonathan is, a father, a director. So, a lot of good stories. But, okay, last question for me, and then you guys can wrap up. What's your favorite season of Star Trek?
Well, right now we've done all of Deep Space Nine. We're in the second season of the original series. We've done every single episode of the new stuff. We're on the fifth season of Next Generation. So that's the caveat there.
Which used to be my favorite, by the way, along with DS9.
A lot of people say season 5. What do you say, Sirach?
Yeah.
For me, I think it's season 7 of Deep Space Nine for me. No offense to Terry Farrell. I'm not trying to say. I mean, I really just like
Yeah.
seasons like
Yeah.
4 through 7 of Deep Space Nine. But for me,
First of
that's
all, there is no bad Deep Space Nine. Number
Right.
one.
Yeah.
what do you guys
I
feel?
say I got season 5 in Deep Space Nine.
Mhm.
Me too.
A lot
Throck.
of people say that one and a lot of people say season 5 of Next Generation. Season 5 seems to be the hot
It's
spot.
been the best so far.
So
Kind
on
of.
our way out right
Yeah.
now, because I
Yeah.
just before you go, Dave, I've got to ask both of you the same question. What did she mean when she said that she bonded with Picard? Are we supposed to think that maybe they humped or something? What I didn't, because she was
Throck,
like,
you go first.
No, I think she has a window of that whatever that gestation period that they were
Yeah.
calling, and if that's
Okay.
at some point, if within that whatever 48-hour window or whatever the time frame is, she has to bond with somebody. And I think that time ran out, and she just bonded with Picard
I
based on
see.
their
Because I was like,
conversations
I
and
thought that he was a gentleman, everything was great, and he left and everything was cool. But then when she said the bonded thing, I was like, wait, are we supposed to like wonder, like, did they or didn't they? Okay, I got you.
No,
That makes
it's
sense then.
typical Renee writing. It shows that she's going to have to, unfortunately, suffer, perhaps for the rest of her life,
Yeah.
being with this Auric guy because she's bonded on Patrick.
Got it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
she's in a regular marriage like everyone else.
it was a timing thing.
Hey.
We'll cut that one out in the edit. All right, we better run before we say any worse things.
All right.
Dave Zappone, executive producer of 455 Films. He loves Buicks,
Absolutely.
he loves Star Trek, and he loves sharing Star Trek documentaries with the world. Thank you very much,
Thank you, David.
Mr. David Francis.
Thank you,
Zappone.
guys. I can't wait to see you both in Vegas, I hope.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
Everybody stick around. We've got way more to talk about. We'll be right back on
Thank
the
you,
seventh
guys.
rule. And we'll see you in Vegas, everybody.